Welcome to E-Stories.
The Road to Resilience, a journey of hope and determination. The sky was a muted gray, hanging low over the quiet town of Brooksville. It had been raining for days, the persistent drizzle a mirror to the feelings of the people who lived there. Among them was a young woman named Sarah, sitting by the window of her small apartment. She stared outside, her eyes glazed, watching the raindrops slide down the glass. Each drop resembling the tears she held back. Sarah had always been the optimistic one, smiling through adversity, working hard no matter the challenges. But lately, the weight of her struggles had begun to feel insurmountable. She had just lost her job, her rent was overdue, and she had been rejected from every job she had applied to in the past 3 months. The rejections felt like a personal failure, each one cutting deeper than the last. She had started to question her worth, her abilities, and even her place in the world. Her mind was a battleground of negative thoughts.
Maybe I'm just not good enough. Maybe it's not meant to be. What's the point of trying so hard if everything just falls apart?
The brink of despair. In another part of town, John sat in his small workshop, surrounded by unfinished projects and broken dreams. John was a craftsman, a man who had always prided himself on his skill with his hands. His workshop had once been a place of joy and creation, filled with the smell of sawdust and the sound of hammering. But now it was a place of frustration. Business had slowed to a crawl, and with every day that passed without an order, John's confidence dwindled. He found himself staring at his tools, wondering why he even bothered to keep them. His passion for his craft had dimmed, replaced by a sense of hopelessness. The joy of creation had been stolen by the weight of financial struggle and self-doubt. The same questions gnawed at him, day and night.
What if I'm just wasting my time? What if I'm not as good as I thought? Maybe it's time to give up.
The universal struggle. Miles away, in a bustling city full of lights and noise, a young man named Carlos leaned against the rail of a bridge, watching the water flow beneath him. Life in the city was relentless, always moving, always demanding. Carlos had come here with big dreams, believing that with enough hard work and determination, he could make something of himself. But the city had been harsh, chewing him up and spitting him out more times than he could count. His dream was to be a musician, to make music that touched people's hearts. But after years of performing in small clubs, struggling to get his songs noticed, he was beginning to doubt whether his dream was realistic. Every door seemed to be closed, every opportunity just out of reach.
Maybe it's time to face reality.
He thought.
Maybe I'm not cut out for this.
Moments of clarity. These 3 individuals, living in different places, dealing with different struggles, had one thing in common. They were standing on the edge, contemplating giving up on their dreams. The weight of life's challenges had pushed them to the brink, and they each felt like they were fighting a losing battle. But in the depths of their despair, each of them found something, small, subtle, but enough to pull them back from the edge. For Sarah, it came in the form of a letter from an old friend. The friend had heard about Sarah's troubles and sent her a message of encouragement. In it, she reminded Sarah of all the times she had overcome obstacles before, of the strength she had always shown.
You've always been resilient.
The letter said.
You've always been the one who never gave up, no matter how hard things got. Don't lose that part of yourself now.
The words struck a chord with Sarah. She had forgotten her own strength, blinded by the hardships of the present moment. She realized that setbacks were not a reflection of her worth, but just part of the journey. With newfound resolve, she picked herself up and started applying for jobs again. But this time, she approached it with the mindset that each rejection was just one step closer to the right opportunity. For John, the turning point was a chance encounter with an old mentor. He had run into the man by accident while doing errands in town. The mentor had asked about his workshop, and John confessed his doubts and frustrations. The mentor listened patiently, then said something that stuck with John.
A true craftsman doesn't just make things. He endures. Creation isn't easy, and it's not supposed to be. The struggle is part of the process. Every masterpiece has hours of failure behind it. If you give up now, you'll never know what you're capable of.
Those words echoed in John's mind as he returned to his workshop. He picked up his tools and started working again, not because his doubts had vanished, but because he had been reminded that perseverance was as much a part of his craft as the wood and nails he worked with. For Carlos, it was a late-night performance at a small, nearly empty bar. He had almost canceled, tired of playing to small crowds that didn't seem to care. But something told him to show up anyway. That night, as he played his heart out to a handful of people, he noticed a woman in the back, listening intently. After the set, she approached him with tears in her eyes.
Your music,
She said,
it moved me. I've been going through a hard time, and your songs, they spoke to me in a way nothing else has.
In that moment, Carlos realized that it wasn't about fame or success. It was about connection. His music had touched someone's heart, and that was worth more than any record deal. It gave him the motivation to keep going, to keep playing, even if it was only for a small crowd, because he knew now that his music had the power to make a difference. The nature of persistence. One of the greatest lessons these three individuals learned was that success is not a straight line. It is not a single moment of victory but a series of ups and downs, triumphs and failures. It is easy to see someone's success and assume that it came effortlessly. But the truth is, every success story is built on a foundation of perseverance, struggle, and countless moments of doubt. Sarah, John, and Carlos all realized that giving up was not the answer. They understood that the obstacles they faced were not signals to stop but challenges to overcome. They began to see rejection and failure not as personal shortcomings but as steps on the path to growth. Each time they faced a setback, they chose to keep moving forward, even when it felt like the world was against them. They learned that persistence is about finding strength in the face of adversity, about continuing to move forward even when every part of you wants to stop. It's about believing in yourself, even when the world gives you every reason to doubt. Finding purpose through the struggle. As Sarah continued to look for work, she also found time to volunteer at a local shelter. She had always loved helping others, and though she wasn't getting paid, the experience gave her a renewed sense of purpose. She realized that her worth wasn't tied to a job title or salary. Helping others gave her life meaning in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. Eventually, one of the people she met through her volunteer work helped her find a job, one that aligned with her passion for social work. John started creating pieces of furniture not just for clients but for himself. He began working on projects that inspired him, pushing his creativity and skills to new levels. His work improved, and slowly orders began to come in again. More importantly, he found joy in his craft once more. The financial struggles were still there, but he no longer defined his success by the number of sales. Instead, he found fulfillment in the process of creating something beautiful with his hands. Carlos started writing new songs, not to impress anyone or land a record deal, but because he had stories to tell. His music became more personal, more heartfelt, and as a result, it resonated with people in a way it never had before. He continued to perform in small venues, but now every performance felt meaningful. And eventually opportunities started to arise, small at first, but they were a sign that his persistence was paying off. The power of hope. The common thread in each of their stories was hope. Hope is what kept Sarah, John, and Carlos going when it felt like giving up was the only option. Hope is what allows us to see beyond our current struggles, to believe that better days are ahead, even when the present feels overwhelming. They understood that giving up would have meant abandoning not only their dreams but also themselves. By holding on to hope, they gave themselves the chance to grow, to learn, and to find success, not just in the traditional sense, but in a deeper, more meaningful way. Life will always present challenges. There will be moments when it feels easier to give up than to keep going. But the stories of Sarah, John, and Carlos remind us that persistence, hope, and resilience are what carry us through those moments. Success doesn't come to those who never face obstacles. It comes to those who face them and continue anyway. Your story isn't over. If you've ever felt like giving up, know that you are not alone. Everyone faces moments of doubt, fear, and frustration. But those moments don't define you. Vocabulary: quiet, making little or no noise. Struggle, a hard and difficult time. Dream, a cherished aspiration, ambition, or ideal. Sadness, the condition of feeling unhappy or sorrowful. Adversity, difficulties, or misfortune. Hopelessness, a state of despair, without hope. Persistence, the quality of continuing to try in the face of difficulty. Confidence, belief in oneself and one's abilities. Encouragement, the action of giving someone support, confidence, or hope. Insurmountable, too great to be overcome. Self-doubt, lack of confidence in oneself and one's abilities. Relentless, oppressively constant, incessant. Introspection, the examination or observation of one's own mental and emotional processes. Perseverance, continued effort to do or achieve something despite difficulties or failure. Gnawing, persistently worrying or distressing. The weight of the world on one's shoulders. To feel overwhelmed by responsibility or pressure. Thanks for watching.